globe does not have access to modern energy, unable to switch on the lights or power mobile phones. In an increasingly wired world where we have lights, more than 1.3 billion people cannot enjoy the simple services that we enjoy here in a grid-connected country like France. Nowhere is this more apparent than in looking at an image of the world at night. Here you can see very clearly who is connected to the grid, who is wired, and the very wide swathe of countries and millions of people who do not have access. The 1.3 billion without energy access live in sub-Saharan Africa, in South Asia, in Southeast Asia, and in Latin America. So if that's the global overview, what does this really mean? What are the stories behind this reality? My name is Lucy, as I was introduced, and my team has 7 years' experience expanding energy access in more than 20 countries. What have we learnt at the coalface of energy poverty? We've learnt that energy poverty means a lack of choices. It means resorting to kerosene, to diesel, to paraffin, to candles, to alternatives available locally. These are costly. They can cost up to a quarter of our customers' income. Energy poverty is a health risk. Kerosene can be a baby's first breath coming into the world. Women and children, day in, day out, are cooking in small huts, creating this smoke. This black carbon coating the lungs is responsible for more premature deaths than HIV and AIDS. Energy is at the base of all economic activity. Without energy, without lights, without power, you can't run a business. You can't study. But there is a bright side. Thanks to gains in science and technology, we do have the tech that we need to extend energy access. As I mentioned, my team for the last 7 years has been involved in distributing lights just like the ones you see here on the right. Small lights that can bring lighting to the home and charge mobile phones. These are becoming much more efficient and much more affordable. You can see here in the top left, panels being used to power important devices like phones, like laptops. You can bring these together into mini grids, if you like. You can plug and play with the items, putting batteries together with panels, together with lamps, creating a small grid for a community. So if it's not the technology, what's stopping us? Why haven't we conquered energy poverty? Why does a vast a fifth of the world live in darkness? Why is that? Maybe it's trade. So without resources, you might think, distribution must be a nightmare. But I'd actually say no. So on the left here, you can see the 500 points of sale that my organisation established in Uganda and in Kenya. We worked directly through micro-entrepreneurs. We worked with trade associations, NGOs, collectives, and we would work directly to build small businesses where customers could come and purchase solar lighting. 500 points of sale. That was 7 years of work. Our partner in Vanuatu, the small island state of Vanuatu, is particularly impressive. You can see a photo there on the right of one of our customers in Vanuatu. She came up to my team member to demonstrate just how much kerosene she saves every evening by using her solar light. So it's very impressive what they have achieved there. But this is not just one story in Vanuatu. They, as an organisation, have been responsible for eradicating kerosene from 50% of the unelectrified households across the entire nation. So this is one small trade association that has already taken on half the market. Extremely impressive work. On the bottom right, you can see our entrepreneurs that we have recently recruited in Ghana. Persistent Energy in Ghana has distributed thousands of solar lights across the country. You can see women and men in this photo. They're running small businesses, keeping a portion of the revenue for their own income, building out supply chains, building out the last mile. So distribution is a challenge, but it's most certainly not overwhelming. There have been great gains there as well. So we have the technology, we have distribution capacity. So what is the issue? It's financing. The poor spend $37 billion each year on fuels like kerosene, paraffin, and candles. This is an enormous energy spend. Governments in developing countries are spending just $3 billion each year to build the grid out to reach remote communities. Donors and aid organisations, countries like France that do invest in infrastructure abroad, are spending around $4 billion each year to bring in the kind of infrastructure that's needed to support renewable, clean alternatives. $4 billion. And the private sector is contributing just $2 billion. This is how big infrastructure, or how we would take on the problem in the past. We would pull together billions of dollars from a donor or an aid budget and head into X country and build a dam or build a road. So these types of infrastructure programs certainly have their place. They've been responsible for transforming the economies, the cities of many emerging markets. These are photos that I took on my own travels around Southeast Asia. I started my career working for the donors, working for governments in these countries. I was based in Bangkok. And so I really got to see a lot of these projects up front. I think the challenge is that big projects and big money does not always bring big results. I think it's a most striking lesson to be seen in the photo on the top left. This image was one that I took in northern Thailand. I travelled to the north, and my guide took me to a dam that had been built on the river there. First of all, as you can see in the photo, the water level is so low that the dam is serving no function. So this was one first major error. But secondly, a creative engineer, a foreign engineer, had come in with their foreign ideas and their foreign funding and said, how will we make sure that this dam does not interrupt fish migration down the Mekong, to make sure that fish will continue to be able to travel downstream, and so that the 300 million people that rely upon fishing in the Mekong for food can continue to benefit. And so he thought, I know what I'll do. I'll build a fish ladder. The fish will jump up over the dam into the next area. As you can see, there are no jumping fish in the Mekong. There are no salmon in the Mekong. Besides which, the water level isn't even high enough to bring the fish to the river. Big projects do not always bring big results. Another good anecdote to demonstrate this message was our project in Vanuatu. My colleague visited recently, and when she was there, she saw that a government had donated an incredibly high-efficiency technical solar panel. This was, it had a really good, robust capacity, probably could have powered agricultural processing. It was really, high-tech stuff. But it was being used for soccer practice. So the children in the village were getting the panel and lining it up and sort of using the different sections of the panel to make a target so they could just kick their ball into it. So this was another really good, desperately sad, I'd say, example of big money that had been put into some worthwhile technology, but if communities don't know how to use it, then this all doesn't come to anything. So big money, big projects, that's one way to fix this financing gap. We can go after the donors, we can go after governments, we can try to extend the grid, we can try to get more funding from, big money. Or we see a new opportunity, matching micro projects with micro investors. You can see here some images from projects we've established in Ghana, in Vanuatu, in Honduras. Today, through crowdfunding platforms, which I'm sure many here in the audience have heard of, people just like yourselves can connect directly with a project in a developing country and make an investment. Angel investment is another huge developing sector. These are high net worth individuals who do have savings. And so rather than just putting them through their tax dollars into the government budget and the government then to take care of aid responsibilities and opportunities, there now is a chance for them to invest directly as individual investors right into a project. In our model, we work with communities where you have 50 households, so very, very micro. They receive upfront basic infrastructure, solar panels, batteries, lamps, everything they need to get started, to have lighting, to have phone charging, and essentially to set up their own mini utility. Not that far from the operation of the kind of utility here in France that brings us this kind of robust power. So it's about setting up the systems that can support communities to move upwards, to increasingly move their way out of energy poverty. It's not a donation. So we looked at setting up a non-profit and we thought, well, should we just get the private sector to donate the money to make these projects happen? Would that be good? And we looked back at that pie chart and we thought, no, we need to incentivize investors to come into this business. So in our model, with a ticket of around €25,000 investment, which is a fairly common angel investment these days, we are targeting a 10% per annum return over 3 years. So this is a loan that an individual can make directly to a village. We ship the infrastructure there. The village pays it off for the price of kerosene. They pay weekly, and the money can then be returned to the investor with a return. So this is really about disrupting the old energy model, bringing in the trillion-dollar capital markets that are funding the great technology innovations of Facebook and Google and all of these wired devices that we have here now. But micro projects do not mean a small opportunity. We've mapped over 1 million data points in the developing world. We've been working on what's called a global energy map to quantify, to visibly measure precisely where these 1.3 billion households are. What infrastructure do they have access to already? So where are the roads? Where are the schools? Where are the microfinance organisations? So that we can clearly understand the gap. So when you have this data, and you have a project model, which we are not the only ones pursuing this micro model, and I know this is the founders of the LHFORUM themselves were pioneers of microfinance. So thankfully, I believe we're part of a movement. When you combine this approach with the opportunity to aggregate smaller projects, so not just one, but 1,000 projects. Not just 1,000, but 100,000 projects. We can really bring in crowdfunders, angel investors, donors and governments to solve this problem. I invite you to join us to build the grid backwards and light up the world.